Good afternoon. Today we are with St. Xavier High School's Ben Yauss, who is the Director of Sports Performance for the high school. Thank you for taking time today to meet with us and talk to us about common sports injuries associated with soccer. Obviously, it's fall soccer time. Players are practicing and gearing up for a strenuous season. Please help us identify some of the common sports injuries associated with soccer.
It's a great question, and I think first and foremost we have to just look at the game of soccer in general. It's, in my opinion, one of the most demanding sports in the world. There's not many other sports that are going to combine sprinting, endurance, intervals, jumping, cutting, changing direction, sprinting, shooting, kicking. So you have a lot of different things automatically going on, and in all reality, you don't have a lot of natural rest built into the sport as well. So that kind of leaves a lot of opportunities for, at times, our athletes, our kids to get hurt. As we're actually looking at some of the more common things that we do see in the sport, obviously we're going to look at lower body first. So you're going to see a lot of thigh, quad, hamstring related injuries, muscle strains to those muscles. We'll see a lot with the knee, especially in our developing youth as they kind of hit those growth spurts and starting to learn to go through those awkward growing pains in and of itself. We'll get some stuff with the ankle, some of those ankle sprains, and I think the one you're hearing more and more about the last couple of years is obviously related to concussions. As we learn more and more about kind of the head and that whole issue is how we're addressing that and putting in better protocols to ultimately set our kids up for better success when it comes to that.
In your program at St. Xavier, you focus primarily on injury prevention programs. What do you address in these programs, and then how do you implement them?
Yeah, and injury prevention it's kind of a unique word, and I think that's kind of a word we just kind of use to make it a little bit more commonplace with everyone. But really, everything that we do should be injury prevention by nature. Whether we're actually out training, we have a right training plan. Whether it's the actual skills side, whether it's the fitness side, everything we do should be trying to make our athletes stronger, faster, better, and by definition, then help them prevent those injuries. So first and foremost, I think that's kind of how we have to look at that. So what I'm ultimately trying to do is build a resilient athlete, an athlete that's able to handle stress and demands and the overload that we're trying to put on them, that with time and as their body adapts to that, that stress is going to make them better and put them in a better situation to ultimately be able to go out and perform, but also reduce the likelihood of them hurting themselves. So when we start to put our programs together, we're going to make sure we're building them up on the fitness space, we're building them up within their training and their periodization from the actual skill side, and then specifically what we might do as a strength and conditioning coach or a fitness coach is we're going to look at addressing some of those maybe common injury sites to say, okay, what can we do from a stability, range of motion, mobility, activation standpoint, to ultimately give them some exercises, some stretches, some mobility type drills that should allow them to go out onto the pitch and perform the way they need to.
What can players do individually to help prevent injury? And it seems that what is taking place in the national landscape is more and more players are playing on turf versus grass. So maybe go into that as well. Maybe there's something they should be doing if they are playing a lot of games or practicing on turf versus grass.
Yeah, I think first and foremost, I think just like anything, you should have a plan, a plan of action. So I think some easy things that, our youth and our kids can be doing is starting to try to form better habits younger. It's no different than studying for a test. If you cram for the test, you might get by that one day, but are you really setting yourself up to retain that knowledge down the road? So we should almost look at soccer development, fitness development, strength development, kind of the same way, is that the more we practice good habits and routines, that's going to then build upon itself, and we're going to be able to take that with us. So having a good plan, I think, is first and foremost. Now within that plan, there's some simple things we can do from a warm-up standpoint, from a kind of recovery standpoint, looking at the nutrition side, or how we sleep. So things that we can be doing both within the training session and those other 22 hours out of the day to make sure we're recovering so that we're prepared for the next one. I think some easy things that's easy accessible to parents and coaches is, kind of what FIFA and some of these groups have kind of tried to put out there. So, you look at your FIFA 11, type program. So it's a warm-up program that's going to be easy for a coach and a parent to follow. It's going to have some specific movement drills for them. It's going to have some warm-up drills for them. It's going to have some single leg balance drills. It's going to have some activation drills. So doing that before every training session, all of a sudden now we're doing it 4 or 5 times a week. Compound that over a week, a month, a year, 3 years, 5 years. We got a big now training volume of opportunities to enhance and improve those things. So the FIFA 11, the PEP program by the Santa Monica Orthopedic Group are 2 easy ones that you can find online, that really don't require a specialized coach to help you with something you can do at home to at least start off with. But other than that, it's kind of looking at you as an individual then. I'm a 12-year-old boy, I'm struggling to balance on my left leg. Well, let's give you some single leg balance exercise on that leg. So starting to look at, okay, what do I do well? What do I not do well? Let's look at the things you probably don't do well and give you some exercises to address those things.
Okay, we talked about helping prevent the injuries. However, what are the steps they should take if they feel they haven't experienced an injury?
Yeah, I think your first line of defense is looking at some simple things, once again, that you can do, or at least that you can control. So, we kind of use the RICE concept. So rest, ice, compression, elevation. So some simple things you can do at home to address whether that's that ankle sprain or a little bit of a hamstring pull. And you can start something very simple, easy, give it a day or 2, see if it calms down. If it's something a lot more drastic or more severe, then obviously, seek out your medical doctor, your orthopedic surgeon, your PT and athletic trainer, somebody who is licensed and understands truly how to assess, diagnose injuries, and work with them on a plan. And I think that plan ultimately has to have a couple steps. Is obviously making sure your doctor clears you. From your doctor, working with your physical therapist, your athletic trainer to get the correct rehab type programs. But I think the big gap that we've kind of missed or haven't really focused on is that just because you've been cleared by your doctor and potentially your PT, I think as coaches, as parents, we automatically think we're 100% ready to jump right back into full training. Well, depending on how long you were out, you might need still that next gap or bridge to ultimately get you back to match fitness. So the worst thing we want to do is clear you. You go back out and you're running 1,000 sprints the first night, and that hamstring comes right back up. So, having then the understanding that just because you're coming out of PT, we still have to build that fitness, we still have to build that strength, we still have to now work on maybe the fact that you weren't able to be on that one leg, so we have to readdress your single leg balance and that mobility and flexibility and stability again, so that when you do get back out on the pitch, whether it's for a training or a game, you're now ready to truly jump back in 100%. So I think understanding that, for as much as we don't like missing training and practice and we hate being out a week or 2, hey, let's make sure we're not going to compound that by missing another 3 or 4 weeks because we weren't smart about how we came back from that injury as well.
All right, well, Ben, thank you for taking time today. Obviously, you're very busy with implementing all these programs. It's been very beneficial for you to educate our audience on the common sports injuries and prevention tips for soccer. So thank you again.
Yeah, thanks for having me.